Hello friends, this is your Dread Leader here, Patrick McFarlane. I'm very excited to welcome DT on the show for episode 68, but before we get into that footage or the audio from the interview, a few notes here. We were recording using Mumble, which is a software that DT really likes to use, and I've never used it before, and I'm a technological noob. So the recording, unfortunately, has a little bit of clipping in it, and I've taken the liberty of turning it down for this episode just so that it's not as abrasive to your ears. So hopefully, we spent so much time putting this together that I don't want to really go back and re-record it. So if you're a new listener of the show, if this is your first time, the audio usually is not like this. But just for the purposes of today's episode, we're going to try and recover because we had such a great conversation, and it would be a shame just to throw it out. So please, 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 I know that bad audio really upsets some people, and I don't think that this audio is that bad, but I know it really upsets some people. Please try and look past it and look to the content in this episode, because we've been meaning to do this for such a long time, and the stars aligned and we got it done. So thank you so much in advance for looking past the audio difficulties. And for the next time the DT comes on the show, I'll be a little more aware of how to use this software, because with it, you'll see he'll explain, with it comes a lot of freedom to do whatever you want to do, but at the same time, you have to know how to use it. And I, unfortunately, am not as tech savvy. So without further ado, here's the audio from that great episode with DT. Hope you enjoy. Hello, friends. Patrick McFarlane here, coming at you with another episode of the Liberty Weekly podcast. And this one is episode 68. And the show notes will be found at libertyweekly.net/68 as usual. And I have a really good friend joining me today. Just connected with him a few weeks ago, actually. He's a listener of the podcast he lives in Minsk, in the geographic area known as Belarus. And we'll get to that. But welcome to the show, DT.
Hello. Thank you very much, Patrick. And I see what you did there.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh, well, I'm a dude who lives in Minsk in the geographical area known as Belarus. I'm a voluntarist. I'm a host of Voluntaryism.club. I own it. So check it out, guys. And I'm just a dude with an interesting opinion, I think. That's all I am. I just think, that's a thing that people don't usually do.
Hell yeah. And I was super glad that we met, actually, because I've said on the show before that my favorite thing is meeting libertarians from around the world, and it's just been very eye-opening to get to know you. So why don't you talk a little? Yeah, definitely, dude. And Voluntaryism.club is it's a Twitter replacement, basically, that we own. Yeah. So I've been on it for a few days, and there's a few things.
Let me just say one little thing.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have been there, well, not on Voluntaryism.club, but on the network itself from 2016. I was a freaking socialist at that time, and we'll get into that too. But I was there since that time, dude, and that network was a big contributing factor to me becoming a libertarian, or a voluntarist, if you want.
Well, why don't you, tell your story of your personal liberty story, just as we get going here.
Okay. So around 2012, 2013, I was in my 10th and 11th grade. So it's like two last grades in school. And I was just a little bit interested in politics. I really liked we call it like social studies class. That was very interesting. And I was a little bit of a commie, a little bit of a socialist, if you want. And I was watching this guy, Peter Joseph.
Oh, yeah.
Keith and I mentioned this guy. So I really liked his stuff, especially the Culture in Decline series. He was spot on, but as any, sophist, he gives you a little bit of truth and then laces it with a little bit of bullshit, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So he tricked me into that thing. But there also was one occasion when some guys, Antifa guys, wanted to beat me up and my friend for just like a Nazi joke. It was a joke we told him. We told their supervisor, and he was like, "Well, you should have been beaten because what the fuck, dudes? It's actually illegal to display any Nazi symbols in this place." So yeah, but we talked to those guys. We said no, we don't disrespect the veterans. But no, it's just a joke, guys. Come on. So it was peaceful, but it made me think about the freedom of speech. Then also, when I entered the university, like in my first year, some other dude wanted to beat me up for a joke because he called me a faggot. I said, I fucked your mom. So it's a very rude thing to say. And he pushed me from, from the stairs. I didn't fall, but he wanted to like beat me up. He said, like, what did you say? What did you say? I said, well, what you heard, bro? And some other dude intervened. Well, I didn't get beaten, so it was okay. But that made me think about freedom of speech even harder. And the other thing that contributed to that, like liberty story, Linux. And I'm not joking. I installed Linux, and this thing glowing around it, open source. There's this other thing called free software. If you go on gnu.org, gnu.org, you can read about the free software thing. Well, they call it free software. I don't anymore because they use the positive definition of freedom. But that was a very, very useful step. Well, not useful, very important step in my like liberty thinking, like freedom thinking. That really hooked me on that stuff. And basically, so Peter Joseph, these couple accidents and the free software thing, they made me into kind of a socialist, I like to call myself a liberal, but like a lefty liberal, if you want.
Yeah.
Like an American style, but more free speech, really. I really was, I thought a lot about free speech, but also I remember watching Penn Teller's Bullshit. I didn't know the word libertarian at the time, but I watched that show, and I really didn't like religion. I really didn't fucking like religion. And I liked that show because the shadow religion and the shadow all this stupid stuff, like the unreasonable authoritarian BS, like hating gays or some stuff. It's like stupid. And also they made me pro-gun. They made me pro-drugs and pro-gun. Well, I was pro-drugs all the time, but they made me pro-gun. They made me pro-gun. I was like, yeah, why the hell not? Why can't I own a gun to protect myself? That makes sense. Why not? I'm not a criminal. I can own a knife. Why can't I own a firearm? That doesn't make any sense. Why can't I own a tank? I would ask now. Why can't I own a fucking nuke? Yeah, I like my nukes. Thank you very much.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, so 2016. Well, prior to that, I found through Richard Dawkins, because tips Fedora, I found the Armored Skeptic. This guy, yes, I found him, and through him I found Sargon of Akkad. And I liked his series on liberalism, so he converted me from being a commie to like basically classical liberalism, you could say. And I stayed in that phase till autumn 2016, something like that. And at the time, the whole presidential election deal that caught into us as well. So I was kind of following that a little bit. And Gary Johnson, the libertarian thing, popped up. I found Rubin's Report, great show. I don't watch it anymore, but it's a great show. And that one helped me to develop as a libertarian immensely. So I watched an episode with Yaron Brook, the head of the Ayn Rand Institute, and I was like, this guy is making a lot of sense, so I'll be like him. Then there was another guy, Mark Pellegrino, and I agreed with him a lot too. So that's when I realized, capitalism is actually great. Then what happened next is I just was, okay, let's search libertarianism, look what it is, like what's it about. And I found Libertarianism.org, the Cato Institute website. But that's a good website. Cato Institute, Cato.org, it's pretty useless. Nobody reads them freaking, what do you call them? Briefs, whatever, policy recommendations. Nobody cares about that. But Libertarianism.org is a good website. It's about philosophy. They give you free books. They have a lot of like podcasts. They have articles and stuff, and very radical articles, I must say. Very radical. They're awesome. So I like that. I love it. And I told Aaron Ross Powell, the guy that runs the site, that they're great. They're the most important thing they do in the Cato Institute. So, and that helped me to develop as a libertarian even more. But the turning point was when I watched a video with David Friedman on libertarianism.org's YouTube channel about anarcho-capitalism. So, and it was about the judicial system, the courts, it was about the military, and it was about police. So how we can supply that on the free market. And he converted me. It was in December. I remember watching that guy T on Ruben Report before that with my friend, and he was saying, "Oh, ANCAP, anarchy." I was like, I was a minarchist at the time. I was like, no, nah, that's not reasonable. But David Friedman made a really good point, and I was like, whoa, whoa, yeah. I just realized, like at that time, while watching the video, that I'm like, he convinced me. I'm an anarchist now. So yeah.
Isn't that powerful? I mean,
From dude, 1 year. You
yeah.
begin 2016, I'm a socialist. You end 2016, I'm an anarcho-capitalist.
That is crazy. And
Yep.
like this is just an example of how you really can reach people. I mean,
Yes.
how how in the world did, I'm just a stupid kid. I started the show as 24 years old and all of a sudden, people from across the world are connecting with me and hearing about it and, we're advancing the cause. I mean, just these small connections like that.
Just
And
speak.
yeah.
Just be, well, how did I approach you? I was just like, hey, dude, you want to talk?
Yeah.
Something like that. I was just insistent. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys,
And
that's
you
all I did to get on this show.
you have to be because I'm pretty busy and also absent-minded. So if
Yeah.
you want to
I know
connect
that.
with the show, just message me multiple times.
Many times, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I usually answer on the first time, but if you if you want to get on the show or if you want something to happen, you got to keep pestering me cuz I got a lot of plates I'm spinning.
And if you mention some interesting thoughts, Patrick will notice you, and I have some.
Oh yeah, you do, and we're going to talk about that too. So,
Mhm.
what? All right. So we already kind of before we went on, we had some Patreon bonus content as we've been putting out for all of the interviews that I've been doing lately. So if you want access to that, there's some really good nuggets. There was 30 minutes with Keith Knight before our interview that was on, and so check that out at patreon.com/Liberty Weekly with other bonuses. But let's just re-go through that little history that you put. Start with the elevator story.
Okay, so in my elevator, I live in an apartment building, like most Belarusians. There are a lot of stickers that say 100 years of Belarusian National Republic. Belarusian, Belarusian National Republic is a state that was created in 1918 after the First World War, or during the First World War, the end of it. So Belarusians kind of wanted to have independence from the Russian Empire because they conquered them. So they wanted their own state. But basically, what happened is that Germans refused any like recognition. They didn't want to help them protect from Soviets. So when Soviets came, they conquered the place and basically turned it into a Belarusian Socialist Republic. So Belarusian Soviet Socialist Republic, excuse me. So BNR was gone, but people still, some, let's say, like to call themselves politically active people or people with active civil position, something like that. I like to call them people with passive slave position. So that's the whole language thing, you know. So they like to put stickers with like white, red, and white flag. It's a flag of the BNR, the Belarusian National Republic, and they like to protest, quote unquote, with those like symbols against the current state. But you know, what's the freaking difference? Really, I don't see any. So they're annoying. But yeah, the BSSR was included into the Soviet Union in 1922. So the Soviet Union was established on the 1st of January 1922. A very good New Year's present to all the people on the territory. So, and basically, Belarus was a part of the Soviet Union till 1991 when it basically was declared dead. They just what's the word? They accepted its death, let's say, in 1991. It was dead long before that, like a year already, but they just said, yeah, guys, it's dead. So that's when Belarus was created. And initially, the Republic of Belarus had the same coat of arms and the same flag as the BNR till 1994 when we had a referendum and people voted, majority of people voted, expressed their will to, first of all, as a second national language, and change the coat of arms to the one that they had in the Soviet Union with a little bit of change, and change the flag to the one they had in the Soviet Union with a little bit of change. The little bit of change usually comes to removing the hammer and sickle. So that's all they did. Remove the hammer and sickle, and all we have this proto, like quasi Soviet state. We really like our Soviet, ancestry, heritage, if you want. So yeah.
Well, that's interesting coming into it because.
Oh shit.
Oh, that's all right.
I'm sorry.
Well,
fucking hell. I hate when it does that. Sorry, my man. Fucking hell, what does it do? Oh shit. Give me 1 sec, man. Fucking hell, what did it do? Okay. I'll remove the MGMI. Fuck it. Okay. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, I
Say
can.
something, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So
No
I just
echo.
switched to my TV because I was using that. Yeah, so good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's continue. Sorry.
Well, I thought it was interesting because I think a week ago you were telling me about how local people feel about the police, and so you're saying that there is still Soviet sentiment, but people hate the cops.
The Soviet sentiment really is just about the victory in the World War II, and mostly the state feels good about the Soviet system, but not as much. They said, well, there were some mistakes, but we need to make some amends, basically. But our leader, quote unquote, Alexander Lukashenko, likes to say that he wants to be like Stalin or Lenin.
Oh, that's crazy.
But mostly, yeah, it's like I was talking to my friend like recently. So we were on the metro station there, and it was called the Square of Lenin. It's still called the Square of Lenin. The square that actually is above the station is called the Independence Square, but the station is called the Square of Lenin, and you can check it. Like you can look on the internet about the Minsk metro. It's called the Square of Lenin. So the funny thing is that they have like the Soviet the symbols there. They have the hammer and sickle in the middle of the station, and I'm like talking to my friend. Imagine if there was a swastika there, man.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
Exactly.
Yeah, and people don't look at it that way. They just don't notice because Soviets won. But about the cops, so I remember reading Michael Malice's article about that. I don't remember the magazine, but he was talking about the Russian culture and the Russian attitude towards cops, and basically I would say the Eastern European attitude towards cops. So Ukrainians and Belarusians think the same way. We call them, musara. It means trash people. Literally musara. It means like multiple trash. So minty, that's also a very disrespectful word to say to law enforcement. And just calling cops is considered to be like a pussy thing. It's like, what are you, fucking faggot, calling cops? Can't you just like deal with it like two people, just sort the shit out? Do you need to call the cops? It's like calling a freaking sick dog, with a plague into your house. That's how people think about cops. And I'll tell you what, I like our cops better than American cops, because American cops, they shoot your dog, they kill you. Our cops, well, so for example, I had this story. I was going to a bar with my friends, and one dipshit was so drunk he actually grabbed somebody else's backpack and put it in my car. So we drove home, and the cop calls me on the phone. I didn't know it was a cop, but then I learned. So they told me that I stole something. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? They'd be like, well, the backpack. I'm like, what, dude? So I looked into the trunk, and I'm like, oh, I see now. Okay. So basically, I came to the cops. I gave them back the backpack, of course, because it's not mine thing. Why would I? So, but basically, they kind of looked into the backpack. They checked that we didn't steal anything. But the owner, said that there was like a $50 inside of his passport. So they didn't take any of like fingerprints. They didn't check anything. Basically, the cop told me, like, I believe it was you. It were you guys. So I don't care, guys. If you don't want this thing to proceed like an official like crime thing or official theft, just give me back the $50 and we're okay. So basically, there was 10 of us. So I was talking to my friends and be like, well, guys, $50, so $5 each, and we told this guy to fuck off, and they'd be like, yeah, fuck it. So basically, he violated the law. The cop violated the law, but it's still better than actually being prosecuted by the full extent of law. I would rather get robbed by a cop for 10 rubles or $5 than get fucked for like 2 or 3 days and have an official like record in a fucking thing, an official protocol, a call to my job, and all this shit. Fuck that, dude. I'd
Yeah,
rather get $5.
that'd be awful.
Yeah, that's how cops operate. They're lazy. They're very lazy. They don't give a fuck. If you give them some money, they're just for whatever. They don't give a fuck. I remember also another story. A road fascist stopped me when so I turned around in the wrong place. That's what they told me. And basically I had to drive my grandma to a railway station. So I basically paid the fine, the extortion fee, and they just told me, like, I said, well, I have to drive my grandma, and they'd be like, well, dude, why didn't you tell us, like, right up front? We'd let you go. Like, you would just have to leave some documents with us, but we'd let you go. You would return to us and just whatever. So they would do even things like that. Like, they're still fascists, they're still wrong, but at least they're not as authoritarian or like murderous as in, the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting that other people around the world see the United police in the United States to be the jackboots that they are, but we don't.
They're military.
Yeah. I mean, plain and simple. And I think, in thinking about theft in the United States, at the common law, theft is taking something with the intent to permanently deprive the owner of that thing. So maybe, I mean, I think you would still have to litigate it out in the United States. You'd be charged, but they'd probably drop it once you went into court and explained the situation. You might be charged or you might not be. I think it depends because you brought the backpack back. But I don't know. That's aside the point. But
of course.
Yeah, so I mean, do you have freedom of speech, like basic liberties, I suppose you would say? I mean, these are going away quickly, but talk about that a little bit if you would.
Nobody believes that we have freedom of speech in this country. You know why? Because there is a law, quote unquote, that says that you are not allowed to insult the president. It's actually a thing. I think it's not just a misdemeanor. It's an actual crime. You could throw in jail for that shit, or in prison even. Yeah.
That sounds
like there's a fine for that, I'm sure.
Well, it sounds like the Alien and Sedition Acts in the United States. Well, this is aside. This is
you're not, for example.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was saying also about this thing. We're not allowed to display Nazi symbols.
Yeah.
It's prohibited. So nobody believes they have freedom of speech in this place. So, and that's the thing. People know it. People know it. Unlike in the United States, people be like, freedom of speech, due process, the presumption of innocence, freedoms.
Except when it matters, like when it actually comes down to it, de facto, you don't have those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But people here know about it. They're not like in any illusion. They know what's going on. So they don't think dearly or positively about their rulers. They, at the very best, they would say, there's nobody better than them available. That's the best they say, seriously. It's not a positive attitude. It's like, well...
It's submission.
Yeah, we only have this guy. Yeah, they're just like, well, we only have this guy. It's not support. It's not, yeah, this guy is awesome. It's, yeah, we only have this guy.
Huh. Well, I don't know who it was. Someone was saying that there's no one more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they're free. So, but yeah,
that's so true.
Yeah, and so generally so some people harken back to Soviet imagery, and you mentioned something earlier that you said someone was mad at you for insulting the veterans. Do you remember when you said that?
Oh yeah, the Antifa guys in my school, yeah.
So the Antifa guys said that you have to respect your veterans, who would be Soviet fighters?
Yes. They fought the Nazis,
Oh, I see. So So even there's still the veteran worship going on there too.
Yes, very much so.
Interesting how
For
those things
example,
are universal.
yeah, it's definitely the same thing. I remember my dad. I scolded him when he said, "We flew in the space," and I'm like, "Did you fly in the space? You were 5 years old when that happened. Why are you taking pride for something you didn't do, Dad? Did you have anything to be proud of yourself?" Oh, is that what's going on? You know, like George Carlin said, like, I don't understand national pride. Don't you have anything to be proud of that you did? You know, the place you're born in is just a fucking accident. Your color of skin is just a genetic accident. So, oh, I'm proud to be 6 feet tall. That sounds stupid. It is
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah. And so weren't you saying that you were thinking about moving to the United States? Was it a free state
Yes, I'm
project?
thinking about that a lot. Yes, I want to move to New Hampshire to the Free State Project, guys. Seriously, if somebody told me, okay, dude, you're being teleported with your computer and just basic some like couple things you can take like in a backpack, you're being teleported to any place in the United States without any documents. I would say yes, please, to Roger Paxton's house if you can. He's the host of The Lava Flow. By the way, that podcast changed me a lot. Guys, please check it out. TheLavaFlow.com. It's an awesome, awesome podcast.
Yeah, Paxton is great, and I need to try and connect with him. I know that Stephen Rose from Anarcho Christian is on Pax Liberta, so I
Mm-hmm.
think, yeah, I gotta connect with.
Max
There's
Libertas.
so many people I need to connect with, man. Um,
Yeah.
but
I connected with him a little bit. I sent an email to him. He's easy to reach.
oh, nice. Yeah, I'll have to do that. But man, what else was I gonna say? Oh, like, but how's the quality of life there?
Shit.
Is it real bad?
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little
Not too
bit?
bad, but not good.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say $2,000 per month is considered a lot of big salary.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's the thing that
Does it put things in perspective?
yeah, it does, because that's what I get at with, people whining about privilege in the United States on the left. And Dave Smith makes this point all the time. He says, you live in the United States, but you want to whine about privilege. How about if you make more than $30,000 a year, then you're in the top 1% of earners in the world. So shut the hell up
Yes.
about privilege.
Yeah. I didn't earn as much, and I'm considered like lower middle class. Yeah.
Yeah. But you have a programming job too, and we'll kind of get into that. What do you do though?
I write text.
And you taught
I'm
yourself
real.
this.
Yes, I did. Well, I kind of went to university, but I taught myself how to program a little bit earlier in school.
Okay.
But it kind of always made sense to me. I just don't know. Like language makes sense to me. Programming languages are still languages. You just need to express an idea in a certain language. It's not hard. I taught myself some Python and I make money with that. I taught myself, really. They didn't teach that shit in university. They taught some stupid shit I didn't know, I didn't need it, didn't use, I never will use probably. But Python, Django, that's what I use a job and I make money. Yeah. That's how I make my
Nice.
dosh, and that's how I get my bread on my table. Yeah,
Right on.
and
I
it's
mean,
really portable. I only need a freaking computer, a freaking internet. I can teach you can teach yourself that thing for free, for free. You just need some time, some effort. You need a computer. You need to go to python.org, download the fucking interpreter, and read a book. That's also available for free. That's all.
nice. Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's the entrepreneurial spirit. Just do it yourself,
Yeah,
man. And I was thinking about
yeah,
this. I want to get into language, so let's get into that next. But I was thinking about this today, just
yeah.
how you can really boil down, and let's explore this a little bit. Can you really boil down people's politics to how much responsibility they want to take? I feel like us as being radical individualists, we're willing to accept responsibility for our actions. But what I see on both the right and the left is an unwillingness to to take responsibility for yourself. And they do it both in different ways.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Whereas
That's true.
with the left, it's all about, oh, I'm a victim of circumstance. You were born rich, so you're privileged. But on the right, it's also my heritage and, my tradition and my state, take
Yeah.
care of me. And my veterans.
Stupid.
Yeah.
I need some other people to protect me because I can't. That's
Yeah.
the right-wing thing. I need some other people to earn some shit for me to eat. That's on the left.
Yeah.
And I really like responsibility. I like owning things.
Yeah.
Like, this glass I'm drinking from is my thing. I like it because it's mine. This computer I'm talking to you on through is also my thing. I'm responsible for it. I'm responsible to keep it clean from viruses. I'm responsible to update the software on it, Nobody else is. I'm responsible to wash myself. I'm responsible to keep myself nourished. So, I don't know what's this whole thing about, other people should provide this for me.
Yeah.
Well, you have 2 legs, 2 hands, you have pretty much... Well, I'm sorry, I don't have a perfect eyesight, but I'm kind of making it, It's not hard, actually. It's pretty fucking simple.
Well, and there's the hypocrisy on the right, at least the American right, of, we believe in...
I'm here too.
Oh, okay, yeah. Maybe it's universal then. They believe in personal responsibility for themselves and everything, except when it comes to their own safety, or when it comes to Social Security,
Or
drugs. Or drugs. Yeah. Well, I'm sure. Yeah, we made this point.
I asked my father, by the way, this thing. I asked my father once, like maybe a week or 2 ago, not so long ago. So I asked him, how many years in jail should a drug user spend? He thought about it really hard and said 0.
Really?
He's like a dude who talks positively about Putin sometimes,
Man.
I'm serious. That's a good question, right?
Yeah.
So it's about language, for example. You break it down to simple things. You don't say, well, should it be a crime? No, just ask him, how many years should a drug user spend in prison? Almost nobody would say 1, 2. They would say 0. And if they say, well, they're an addict, like, well, should they like maybe receive some help, not be fucking thrown in prison as a criminal,
Yeah.
What's so criminal about taking a substance? Excuse me. You drink alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't? Okay, do you drink tea, right? Oh, okay. Tea and coffee, they contain caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant, just like amphetamine or cocaine or methamphetamine. Well, not as powerful. Or nicotine, for example. Do you smoke cigarettes? Of course you fucking do. But do you get into prison for taking those substances? No, you don't. Why would you? It's stupid. Just drink something. That's the same thing. You drank some fucking thing. Well, you felt bad. Well, shit, dude. You can drink fucking laundry detergent or eat a Tide Pod. Should you be jailed for that? Of course not.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it just makes me think of something that Trey Weaver said from Subversion Webcast. He was saying that because when he was a kid, he got into drugs, and he's clean now and everything. He's got his shit together, and he's a great dude.
Good.
But he was remembering when he was arrested by the police officer, and he said, "Why are you doing this to me? Like, you're ruining..." Or the police officer said, "Because you're ruining your life." And he said, "Well, I mean, drugs don't help, but no, you are ruining my life. You are putting me in jail,
That's
and
a good
now I'm
response.
going to have a record."
And probably the cop said, man, I don't make the laws. I just have to enforce them.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of fucking response is that? Do you have a hallucination that you're not a human being that can't judge right from wrong? Is that you have problems with what's it called? Goddammit, self-consciousness. Is that what you have problems with? That you're not able to decide what's right or wrong. You need somebody else to decide for you. I'm sorry, but nobody can shift this responsibility. You're always responsible for your actions. Such an excuse is the excuse of those people in the Nuremberg process, those Nazis that gassed Jews. They just said, well, I just followed orders, Well, I like what Larkin Rose says, that order followers are the fucking most evil people in the world, dude. It's not the Rothschilds, it's not the politicians, it's not the fucking Lukashenko. a just ordinary cop that throws a person into the cage for smoking a substance, smoking a plant, is the most evil person in this fucking planet, on this fucking planet, in this fucking world. The most evil. The most evil. They actually the ones that do the violence, that do the evil thing. Politicians just speak their mouths, man. That's all they do.
Yeah, and well, on the right, you get, the right would make excuses for police officers and defend them. Well, what about personal responsibility for your actions?
Oh.
Yeah,
All right. Well, it's the law, man.
yeah.
Well, fugitive slave laws were a thing, man. Do you like slavery now? Well, we had Lincoln to end it, you know? Well,
Oh,
I'm
did
sorry. Lincoln actually said that he would preserve the Union if he didn't have to free any slaves, you know? Oh, why is it every freaking great president in the United States is a huge fucking fascist? That's a very interesting thing. It's
Yeah,
propaganda, I think.
it is, and I mean, oh shit, I forgot what I was gonna say now. Yeah, the thing with Lincoln is that, yeah, he emancipated the slaves, but in doing so, he enslaved every single free man in the United States because now secession isn't a thing after the Civil War. It's pretty damn
Yeah,
clear after
yeah.
that no one is free to leave. So you just enslaved everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now black
Yes,
people.
yes, exactly.
I think he really just transferred black people to a different type of servitude.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, we could. Yeah. So, anyways, why don't you talk a little bit about language too, because that's one of the big sticking points that you make.
Oh, yeah. So, for example, I like to illustrate this phrase with this phrase. So, a lot of libertarians like to say taxation is theft. I used to say it. I don't say it anymore. I say taxation is not theft. And people be like, "What the fuck was that?" Well, what do I mean with that? Taxation is a payment that is extracted by the government. Okay, what is a government? Government is a group that holds legitimate right to initiate violence on peaceful people. Well, excuse me, there is no legitimate right to initiate violence. There is no right to initiate violence. That can't exist. Such a thing does not and can't exist. By the way, uh, the possession of such right is called political authority, so that doesn't exist as well. Well, if that doesn't exist, there could exist no such group as government. So government doesn't exist. And well, of course, if government doesn't exist, taxation can't exist because who the fuck will do it? Well, government is not there to do it, so taxation doesn't exist. But what I like to say is that what statists call taxation is theft or extortion, whatever you want to say. But taxation itself is not theft. Taxation is a meaningless term that doesn't fucking exist. Such a thing as taxation, you can't point to it. What you can point, like every time a statist tries to point to taxation, or an anarchist that still believes that such a word describes something, points to, I say that's theft. You know, it's not taxation, it's theft. Or for example, I would say law enforcement doesn't exist. Well, we'll say, oh, well, what was this guy? I say, well, it's a fascist in blue uniform with a badge. That's what it is. Oh, what is this building? It's just a big, intimidating building to make you feel like a sheep. That's all it is. Well, who's this guy? This Trump guy? Who's he? Well, he's supposed to be the leader of the gang. I'm not sure, but that's what he's supposed to be, the head of the gang. You know. Well, what is this? This box, the voting booth? What's that? It's just a box by which you bind yourself to your slavery. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So that's how I use language. I describe things as they are.
yeah, and I think that's
You
a
were
great
saying.
thing. That's a great insight that Larkin Rose has for us too. And I think it
Yeah.
really is important to keep, you know, destating your language, deprogramming your language,
Oh yeah.
because I've talked with Keith on the show too about the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, is that, and I don't know if I've mentioned this to you or not, but that movie
I know
Arrival,
that one. I know that one.
yeah, that movie
Oh, I watched
Arrival
that one.
with
It's good.
the, okay, yeah,
I
that
think it's bullshit. The premise of it is bullshit, but it's a good movie. Watch it, guys. It's good.
no, it is for real. It is bullshit, but the it really is. I mean, just in you, I'm sure you can attest to this too. But things really do get lost in translation. Language really does control the actual thoughts that happen in your mind. And if we keep using
Yeah.
program language, we imply, certain imagery and certain ideas, even just with the words that we use.
Yes, yes, yes. It's more about, it's called grammar. The basically the how words are used with each other, and semantics, what words mean. So I'm planning to write, basically, I think it's going to be a book, the grammar and semantics of state speak, and I'm going to have
Nice.
some edgy subtitle. So basically, this word democracy, people
Yeah.
use it, most of the people, not anarchists, use this word as if they use freedom. So you can hear democracy, we fight for democracy. Well, what they want to say, they fight for freedom, or something like that. So those words, they're like mines. They're mines or tricks, or some things like traps. They're traps to make an untrained mind fall into it. So usually what happens is the ruling class packages the grammar for you, and just, they usually use this like contradictory and stupid grammar and misleading, deceiving grammar. They put it in the heads of subjects through indoctrination centers, which are usually called schools. And they do that by using this thing called public relations, which is a euphemism for propaganda, coined by our great and awesome Edward Bernays
Yes.
in 1917, I think, for the Woodrow Wilson administration to push for the World War I. So just saying. For example, let's take the. I was talking about that with my friend. Let's take the term assault rifle. That's a term coined by Hitler administration for a minigun or a submachine gun, if you want. So this thing, Sturmgewehr 44, this gun was originally called MG44, which basically translates to a machine gun. So it's, or a submachine gun. But they wanted to make their soldiers feel more powerful, so they called it Sturmgewehr because it sounds, oh my god, so powerful and so airy and so fucking white as shit. Oh my god, we're just gonna slay them Slavs like crazy with those. But yeah, it was just a machine gun, just a better machine gun. That's all it was. But yeah, and they still use that term, the leftists in America, for example, assault rifle. Well, I'm sorry, AR-15 doesn't stand for assault rifle. It stands for anal rape, of course, and it's not an assault rifle by U.S. military definition. Assault rifle by U.S. military definition has select fire. It can fire automatically. So, for example, Russian is better in that regard, because in Russian, AK means automat. Automat Kalashnikova. That's what AK stands for. Kalashnikov's automatic rifle. Automatic rifle. So AR-15 is not an automat. It's not an automatic rifle. It's a semi-auto. So yeah, Russian in this regard is a little bit better. But, or for example, let's take the word we. We usually means me and some other people that are in this group I belong to as well. So for example, I can say about you, Patrick, and myself, we are in my mumble because I am there and you are there. But when people say, well, Sam Harris or somebody else, we are in Afghanistan, I'm like, excuse me, sir, but you, as far as I understand, in the United States at the moment. Why did you say we? It's also like a propaganda thing. It's so subtle, people don't notice it. It's just so subtle. And when I mention that to people, they say, are you trying to control my language? I'm like, no. I'm actually trying to make you think about words you're saying. I'm trying to make you control your language, dude. That's all I'm trying to make you to do. I'm not trying to control it. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm saying, why did you say we if we means I and other people? Those people are called they. They. You're not there. They. That's the word you should use. They are in Afghanistan. Why the fuck are they in Afghanistan? That's a good word. Why are boys in Afghanistan? That's like that I can't accept. Our boys, well, you could say our, I mean like American boys. Sure, fine. Our boys. Why the fuck are our boys in Afghanistan? That's a good question. But why are we in Afghanistan is a stupid question. Because you're not in Afghanistan.
Hell yeah. And
so really, you should deprogram this shit. Democracy is just a euphemism for gang rape. Really, that's what it is. It's not freedom.
yeah, I don't know why people associate democracy with freedom. Like, I had I gotta make this point before I forget, because there might be some people that listen to the show just offhandedly and think we don't know that AR stands for Armalite with AR-15. So just so we don't get shit for that, let me clear that up. Because people, yeah,
No, it stands for anal rape. I coined that. No,
it
you're lying,
definitely
dude. It
does
stands for anal rape. 15 stands for the age of the boy that was anally raped at that time.
Oh my god. The second point is I work with this guy, and we got to talking about something, and he recommended this book called The Dictator's Handbook. Have you heard of this book?
Mm.
It's
Is
like
that a different name for Machiavelli's Prince?
no. It's well, yes. I mean, effectively it is, yes. But this is, I don't know, it seems like some like mainstream PC kind of leftist thing, but apparently the whole thing is like, oh, this is why we need democracy. And that's how he framed
Oh
it.
my god.
I haven't looked into it, but he was like, yeah, well, that's why we need democracy, because in a democracy you have to convince a lot of people to do bad things, and that is really hard to do.
Oh really? Oh really? Well, excuse me, sir, but in 1945, when the two atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, there were 80% approval ratings. So
Yeah.
what about that democracy thing? Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry. It's okay to kill Japanese children and civilians, which in Hiroshima there were at most 20% military personnel. In Nagasaki, even less. So all of the other people that were killed were Allied POWs, which were like, I don't know, 20 people, something like that. And everybody else was Japanese civilians, children, women, old people, just regular guys. Yeah, man, kill them because of the fucking Pearl Harbor. They bombed us. Well, excuse me, they are Japanese military. It's not civilian population. So fuck your democracy.
I just can't. I couldn't believe
And
it,
by the
man.
way,
I couldn't believe it. I didn't bring him up on that.
By the way, there's a cool slogan that Edward Bernays coined for the Wilson administration for the First World War. We need to make world safe for democracy. And it still is a thing in this day and age, in this fucking year. It sounds a little bit different. I'm sure you know this one. We need to fight them there so we don't have to find them here.
I hate
You
that
know?
one. Yeah.
It's the same. It's literally the same fucking phrase. It's just with different words. But like if you examine the language as much as I did, you notice how full of shit that phrase is. Like right away. Like for example, I just heard a little bit of excerpt from Euronews. Oh, excuse me. They were saying the collapsing economy of Venezuela, and I'm like, well, they said it in Russian, and it was sounded like, разрушающаяся. So, and the last two letters, ся, usually means that it does it to itself. So I'm like, is it collapsing on itself, just by itself, No, motherfucker, no. It's because of their state. That's why it's collapsing. So, the economy that's being collapsed by the state, that's how you should have said it. So, but they would be like, oh, that's what we actually meant. But of course not. They use this phrase to dupe people. So people would be like, well, it's just on its own, It's just collapsing. I don't know. Something happened. It's just an accident. No, it's not an accident. Somebody deliberately destroyed it. So that's it's double speak. That's why they use those phrases. Politicians, like if you listen to a politician speak, you notice those double speak words every time. They say this and that, like they mean one thing, but they say it in a different. They say it with those specific words, so you think of a different thing. So you think they said one thing, they actually say another thing, and you support them because they think they said the good thing, but they actually said the bad thing. So you support their bad thing when you think you support the good thing. And that's what leftists do to you. That's what the right wingers do to you. They like to play this game of defining the word in a good light, in a good way, but then use it in a bad way. And you must point that out. You fucking have a moral obligation to point that shit out. Because if you don't, they will enslave a lot of people, as they have. That's why people are mind slaves to politicians, because they don't control their own language. So the first thing you should do is, of course, clean your mind, use a meaningful language. Don't say democracy when you speak to people like me. Like, if you want to say democracy, well, you can say democracy about a gang rape, thank you very much, but please don't say democracy about the United States or something good, or don't use democracy as a euphemism for freedom, because it is not.
Did you see that video, that Katie Couric clip that we played in the Keith Knight interview? I don't know if you had time to listen to it
No.
yet, but yeah,
no, I haven't yet. Sorry.
It's so
I
fraught
will,
with
though. I love Keith. He's awesome.
Oh, Keith is great, man. He's awesome. No, don't feel bad for, we're all fucking busy people.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
I know. I need to watch my freaking YouTube, play my games. Of course, I'm a busy person, dude. Of course.
I'm so far behind on everyone else's show too. It's just life happens, man. Yeah. So let's see. Well, so some of the listeners have probably already seen or heard it, but it was a bunch of kids talking about why history is important, and of course the kids are all like, "Oh, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves," and you know. It's real bad. And there was something that Keith, and one of the girls in the video said, "I don't think it's right to make people do things that they don't want to do." And it's like, seriously?
No shit, girl, I agree.
No shit. But you're right, because you were saying that, what you were just saying was that the politicians, they use that comforting language, that doublespeak. Because they say things that, of course, everyone agrees with.
It's very fuzzy, very soft. Public relations doesn't sound as menacing or cutting as propaganda, or well, I don't know. Department of Defense doesn't sound as menacing as Department of War, or legalized mass murder doesn't sound as good as collateral damage,
or the National Guard. I mean, who's fought most? I think. I'm not sure about this, but I'm sure
National Guard, I like how it sounds.
Yeah.
Or law enforcement. Well, how do I call it law enforcement? And I, guys, really suggest you call them what they are. Fascists with badges. That's how Larkin Rose calls them. I like his term.
Yeah.
Fascists with badges. That's all they fucking are. Occupation force. Domestic occupation force, if you want. Not law enforcement. What is a law in this phrase, by the way? Standing army, also good. It's not law. It's a threat from the ruling class. A threat from the gang. Don't say government. Say gang. G-A-N-G. Like a street gang. That's all they are. A gang that washes people's brains. That's all they fucking are. They're not a government. Government is a legitimate thing. Use the status definitions against them. Say, okay, government is this legitimate thing that has authority, right? Well, I'm sorry, authority doesn't exist, so government's not a thing. And bam, you got them. You used their definition against them, and you got them. You don't need to convince them that taxation is theft. You just tell them, it's not taxation, dude, it's theft. You don't have to convince them the government is a gang. You just, show them, this is not a government, it's a gang. Government doesn't exist. It's an easy thing. It's an easier thing to do. I did it. It's easy. It's easy to convince them that you don't have to follow their commands. Because if you say law, it sounds legitimate. If you say, they believe, for example, the law is connected to the government. So if there's no government, there are no laws. That's why they're afraid of anarchy. They think that anarchy is war of all against all. But really, what is a war of all against all is called democracy. Democracy is a war of all against all. It's the war of you against your neighbor. When you put that ballot in the box, you say, I want my neighbor to be fucking thrown in jail if he doesn't do what I like to do. So that's what democracy is. A war of all against all.
You're right. Yeah. No, you're right. You're totally right. But this comes into some criticism that you had for me, and I'm going to put you on the fucking spot here.
Do it.
All right. Explain what you were giving me shit for. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh. The calling the reps?
Yeah.
Oh, calling the reps, yes. I think that calling your representative, quote unquote, is accepting their authority to wage war in Syria. You're basically humbly asking them to, please, my master, don't wage war in Syria.
Well, let me ask you
I
this.
believe that's the same thing as a vote.
Uh,
Yeah, that's what I believe. I believe it's the same thing as to vote.
so we had this, I don't know, we had this discussion after I had that episode
Mm-hmm.
about calling your reps, and I humbly disagree, my friend. And usually I don't get people on usually I don't get people on the show that disagree with me. So this will be a good treat for the listeners, I hope.
Oh,
Yeah.
you freaking echo chamber.
Yeah.
Awful.
I know, right?
Just like
Well,
a lefty.
I would say, we had this conversation on Voluntaryism.club, but I was saying that, I don't think
Yep.
it is because voting is a legal act. I mean, it is a legal act. It has legal obligations that when you cast a vote in the ballot box for someone, and I would never vote for a representative because, like I said, and we would agree on this, that if you vote for someone, I think that you morally are endorsing whatever they do, whether you disagree with it or not. But I mean, I would say
Mm-hmm.
in the analogy that I used, and maybe you can attack it, is if you're on a plantation and you're a slave and you see your slave master beating another slave, does it um is it accepting your slave master's authority by telling him to stop?
The thing here is that I don't really think that telling your master to stop is the same thing as calling your quote unquote representative and telling them to stop.
Okay.
I
How
think
how
it's a
isn't it?
different thing.
Yeah.
Like you're calling them in their working hours, and you're calling to them as representatives. If you want it to be really like that, like with a slave master, come to them on the street. Come up to them and say, "Hey, dude, could you please stop the fucking war?" Then I would accept your argument, but in this kind of not really,
I mean, does it
not
bother
really.
you that I was
I
using
think,
the official channels? I mean, because you can make
yeah,
two claims. You can make two claims. You can claim that that I'm undermining my own principles, or you could make the claim that I'm undermining my own pride. I think I'm undermining my own pride.
no, I don't give a shit about your pride, bro.
Well, I don't either. That's why I called. like I so I think it's a fair criticism to criticize my pride, as my ANCAP credentials, maybe, but I don't think you can say that I'm violating my principles.
Well, let's look at voting then. How are you violating your principles when you vote?
I think you are, because you're endorsing. When you vote for, we have to differentiate between voting for a person or voting for a policy, you know? And I think that when you
It's the
vote
same
for,
for me though, but let's go.
well, I think it is different. Like because I would only vote if it was a one issue kind of thing. Like, should we pass
Well, let's
taxes?
go. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's say about taxes. Okay, so there's a vote, a referendum. 5% flat tax, 10% flat tax. Which one do you choose?
As
Do you choose to
opposed,
vote, and which one if you do?
okay, well, what is the tax right now before the 5% or 10% flat tax? What is the policy right now?
50%.
Then I'm voting for the 5 because currently it is 50%
I'm not
tax.
voting for shit. I'm not voting
You
for shit because I'm like, look, why? If you're voting for 5, you're like,
you're still
I
voting for a
want there to
tax.
be
Yeah.
5%. I'm not voting. I'm not voting. I'm not just going. I'm just not going. I'm saying, no, fuck off. We're not voting on that, okay, guys? It's bullshit. It's theft. It's not taxes. We're not fucking voting whether to steal shit from people. And what you did, Patrick, if you went to the booth and said 5%, I'm fine with stealing 5% of my fellow guys' shit. Are you fine with that, Patrick? Do you support that? Well, then why do you vote if you don't support that?
Well, of course I don't support that, but if,
Then why do you vote?
this is getting to the pragmatist part of it, the pragmatist versus principle. Cuz
I'm sorry you cut out.
I said this is getting to the pragmatism versus principles, kind of thing. And
Well,
I'm
what do you
most
choose?
I mean, I'm
Pragmatism or principles?
well, what is if I so if the tax right now is 50% and there is a referendum that would through the official channels bring it down to 5% versus 10%, I would vote for the 5 because um I think, of course, taxation is theft, and I always believe that. And if I could, I would not pay taxes. But they're going to coerce you anyways. Whether you vote for 10 or 5 or 50, they're still going to take your shit. And they're the ones in the wrong. So if I have any way, I'm going to do anything that I can to minimize the taxes that everyone has to pay. Because at the end of the day, they're still going to coerce it out of you. And
Tell you what,
yeah,
I would only no, actually, I wouldn't vote on that. The reason, like, you need to listen to. There's also a good podcast on Pax Libertas Network. It's called Essential Libertarianism. It's about
yeah,
voluntarism, and there's a very good episode, just exceptional episode called "Why I Would Not Vote Against Hitler." And I wouldn't. I myself wouldn't. And I wouldn't vote against taxes as well. I wouldn't vote if there was an option for 0%. Why? Reason being is that a referendum, what it is, when you vote in a referendum, you make a statement to the whole people. I accept any outcome of the majority decision. I want this outcome to be forced on people, but if it's not, well, I will accept the one that's winning. So, for example, if you vote for 0 but 10 wins, you're like, well, fuck it, 10 is okay.
yeah. That's
They
a
want to
fair.
give that kind of
Yeah,
message to people to reinforce the belief in authority through that shit. I don't. That's against my goals.
yeah. No,
It's not against my goals. It's endorsing aggression. Thank you very much. No, I'm not doing that.
that's a fair point. And I have to specify because a voting is not what we're talking about here. Like me calling the representatives is not part of. So our discussion on voting, I don't think it can be fairly applied to me
Maybe.
calling the representatives. But I think you are making good points here, and like I don't think I would. I don't think that I would call, or I don't think that I would vote in a referendum unless it was hyper localized. Like if I actually had a chance of making a difference. You know what I
I wouldn't
mean?
vote in a local referendum.
Well, I mean,
I'm a purist.
if it's still 300 people voting, I mean, the only way that I would actually vote is if it was like a refrain from action. Like, so okay, so let's say that this is a situation. This
Okay.
happened in my high school. They wanted to know whether we should have a government grant to build a new pool. And the choices were yes, we're going to spend a shitload of money and build a new pool, or no, we won't spend this money. We might
I
spend
wouldn't
it on
vote.
other shit.
I would just
It,
abstain.
if it was clear enough, you know.
I would just abstain anyway, out
Yeah.
of principle.
Well,
Uh,
I'm not one for voting anyways, you know. I
Yeah.
guess maybe I tongue-tied myself when I said that I would vote in like to refrain from action, but obviously I think I have a little more thinking to do about
I tell
that.
you what, I consider voting an act of secession. You say, fuck off, I don't want your shit, I don't want your votes, you can shove it up your asshole.
Yeah.
This is not a right. We don't have a fucking right to vote.
No, of course
A
not.
right to vote is, oh, if majority wins, we have a right to force it on other people, on the minority. No, there's no such right. I don't have such a right. If I don't have a right to vote, of course I don't go to vote. That's why my criticism of Ron Paul, for example, how can you believe in a non-aggression principle, be a politician?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
A
think
freaking politician.
I still think that Ron Paul is a net benefit. I mean,
Maybe.
he never voted for a tax increase. It's better to have his voice out there. I mean, look at how many fucking people
But
know about
I
Austrian
get,
econ. Yeah.
yeah, but I came to libertarianism not through Ron Paul. So
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. I don't have any emotional attachment, so I can attack him. Most people don't like that. When I attack Ron Paul, they be like, "Oh my god, how dare you?" And why do I dare? Because I have no authority. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I can attack anyone. I can criticize anyone. So that's actually very freeing that I don't have any emotional attachment because I can look at things as they are. I only have attachment to people as individuals. And I'm sorry, if Ron Paul does something wrong, I'm going to criticize him for it.
Yeah. I don't
I
think
like
Ron
that he quit it. I like
Yeah.
that he's doing the thing independently. I like that he speaks against war. That's all good. But I didn't like his thing about, well, the government should protect our rights. Well, sorry, man, that thing can't.
I mean for real, I think you are right. And I don't think that Ron Paul's above reproach, but I think at the same time, in his little old heart.
I'm gonna give him credit. I'm gonna give him credit on good stuff, of course. Of course.
Oh,
I'm not saying he's all bad. Of course not.
Oh, no. I just mean when it comes to, the government exists to protect our liberty. I think
Ugh.
that Ron Paul is 100% a Rothbardian anarcho-capitalist. he's giving
anarcho-capitalist. That's a redundant phrase. Anarchist.
Well,
Anarchist.
he's a fucking anarchist. But
Yeah,
the
I
point
also do that,
stands
actually.
that he is only using that terminology to speak to constitutionalist Republicans. You know what I mean? Because he's the most, whether constitutionalist Republicans are the most reachable is up for debate. I don't think they are the most reachable.
Nah.
But he, from his persona that he has had for all these years, that is the person that he has the most persuasive credibility with.
Yeah.
So,
but I prefer to go from the radical. Like when you speak radical things, they work, and that's what he actually said. So I don't think you need to concede any ground to them. Like Senator Spooner proved it in a legal manner with logic that Constitution has no fucking authority.
Yeah.
It's not any binding contract, even if it was some time ago. It wasn't. That's a big ground to concede. You concede them the whole social contract theory. You concede them that the Constitution is a valid contract some time ago, but it's not anymore.
Yeah. Even though it wasn't, at the time of forming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So even with those huge handicaps, they still can't win the argument.
Yeah.
That must be saying something, that maybe you shouldn't make those handicaps. That maybe when they lose the argument, you should push back and say, well, it's not a fucking contract. And it was never a fucking contract. They actually pushed it, the Federalists, real quick so they could say, oh, we the people, Oh.
And then they went back on it not, 2 or 3 years after it was ratified.
Oh, yeah, that Whiskey Rebellion, the whole deal,
Yeah, well, in the Alien and Sedition Acts too. I mean, the thing that I mean, if you have any minarchist, you ask them, okay, the United States, the founding of the United States, literally was the first and best chance of forming a minimalist government. It was a minarchist utopia. Not 10 years after it was ratified, the Constitution was worthless.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Immediately upon ratification, it was worthless, but not even 10 years afterwards.
I would never concede grounds to minarchists.
Yeah.
I grill them as hard as I do any fascist, because they are a soft-core fascist. That's what they are. Sorry, minarchists, you're fucking soft-core fascists. Come on our side. Come on the side of peace and voluntary relationships. Please.
Well, let's get back, before we get into, okay, so let's touch back on the calling the reps thing, and then I want you to give your spiel about taking care of your own cyber life.
Yes.
And then we'll plug your shit, and then we'll close up because I gotta get going today. But
you need to work.
So yeah, I was gonna say that so calling my reps and saying screw you, don't bomb Syria, I think it's not a legal act. It's not legally binding. All I can do.
Does that mean a lot? Do you really care about legal decrees, the legal fiction of the state?
I do, because not the legal fiction of the state, but the actual
isn't voting a legal fiction though?
But it has legal significance. It's legally binding.
Legal significance, or what the state says.
Well, legal relationships exist in the world, whether they're decreed by the state or not.
Well, that's like saying 2 + 2 = 4, regardless of what the teacher said. Yes, I agree. But I'm saying, are the state's laws the same as valid laws? Of course not, right? Valid laws exist regardless of the state. But anyway, fuck it. You can call your reps. I don't have an argument right now on me, so shit, whatever.
Well, don't just let me win because I came to argue,
No, I don't have an argument right now, so I'll let you stay there. I don't have an argument. When I come back, maybe I'll attack you. But right now, good points.
Well,
my point, on me.
I'm not freaking beyond criticism. You know what I mean? So thanks for calling my card. Yeah,
I will.
No, and I think just in the act of calling and asking them to refrain, or demanding that they refrain from shit,
Demanding is better though.
It is, and the actual way that I phrased it was more of an ask. But I thought that if I asked, it would be more persuasive instead of, anyways. Well, let's before we close up here, DT, just lecture us all about taking care of our digital life.
Okay, guys, you're afraid you're controlled by a box with a special kind of rock inside of it. It's called a computer. You have a system that doesn't respect you as a rational human being that can decide what to do with its life. Because that system tells you, hey bitch, we're gonna update before I turn it off. Or, no bitch, you can't have this layout of the visual interface, the graphic interface, because the experts at the Apple Corporation decided for you. Well, how's that for a property you own that tells you what to do with your life? I prefer my box with a rock to listen to what I fucking tell it to do. So I install Linux to do that. And I think you should too. If you really want your computer to obey you like a fucking property it is, you should install Linux. You shouldn't use Windows. You shouldn't use Gay OS. I'm sorry. You should use Linux or any other Unix OS. I don't care really. If you use a Unix OS, you're good enough. Mac OS doesn't count. Again, I know it's a Unix OS. You fucking nerds. Doesn't count. Doesn't fucking count. Even Ubuntu, the shittiest Linux distro in the fucking world, doesn't behave as just awful to its own user, doesn't just do random updates without you even ever authorizing it to, like Windows does. It always just, at best, it's a gentle, pat on the shoulder. It's like, hey dude, there are updates there. You want to update, man? Like, oh no? Oh, fine, whatever. But yeah, install Linux if you want. I'll help you. I'll help you install Arch Linux. Partitioning your drive is not harder than, I don't know, mowing your lawn, cutting a piece of paper and painting it different colors. That's as hard it is. The reason you think you're not technically smart, you're retarded about technology, is because your technology makes you think you are. It's Windows. We talked about that with my friend just today. Windows is like a social experiment to see how fucking retarded are people to accept this shit. Like how can you accept such a treatment from your fucking computer? It's insane. It's fucking insane. So yeah, please guys, install Linux if you want my help. I'm here. Let's arrange it. I'll do it for you for free. I'll do it in Mumble. I'll explain everything. I'll walk you through. I'm lost with words. Patrick, this offer extends to you as well. To everyone, to anyone. If you're a patron, if you're not, you hear this podcast for the first fucking time, hit me up. Voluntaryism.club/users/Dtluna. Hit me up on my shit. I'll arrange a time. I'll help you install Arch Linux. I'll walk you through, explain everything. I just want you to listen, to read the fucking manual and understand it. That's all I need you from. I need you to have a brain, basically.
Yeah.
You have hands, you have brain, good, you can use Linux.
Yeah, and I know that I always need to get on this, but man, like my defense is that I spent $1,700 in 2004 to build this gaming PC, and if I install Linux, my games.
I'll accept shitty treatment from my computer because of my games.
Yep.
Patrick McFarland, 2018.
Hey, and also I don't have time for this shit. Come on.
Oh yeah, excuses.
No,
all
it's
right.
for real. I'm giving you crap, but it is important, man. I mean, we
Yes.
do need to take control of our digital lives like this.
Yes.
And I mean, we're gonna be on the Windows and Mac OS ghetto open air
Yes, it's a
prison
ghetto.
for years,
prison.
and yeah.
I'm sorry, I call it CIA dose and this Apple.
So let's anything else that you want to plug just as we're closing up here? I'm sure you'll probably be back on the show again eventually.
Yeah, when I start my podcast, probably.
Yeah, are you gonna
because
start?
that's a thing for sure. I recorded the show with my friend yesterday, so yeah, it's gonna be a podcast.
I'm pretty damn excited for this book that if you get the book out.
Ooh, not soon, dude. I have so much shit. Yeah,
that would be cool.
I'll try.
Though.
I'll try.
Yeah,
I need to start working on it because I'm a lazy fuck.
Yeah,
I need to. Oh yeah, of course.
Aren't we all?
But yeah,
500 words a day or 300 words a day.
That's Rothbard, isn't it?
I don't know. I think
Rothbard had a huge productivity.
Yeah, I mean he could write a chapter a day.
My fucking god, that Jew. He's just so insane. People call me a Nazi, and I'm like, because I'm anarchist, and I'm like, they call Rothbard a Nazi. I'm like, is Rothbard a Jewish self-hating Nazi? Is that what you're saying me? Guys, are you crazy?
Or
I think calling
Mises even.
Hapa or Mises, calling Hapa a Nazi is a funny thing. The freaking helicopter meme is funny. But my God, calling Rothbard a Nazi? Are you guys fucking crazy? Anyway, my shit. So,
Yeah.
Voluntaryism.club. Check it out. Just register if you want. It's a decentralized network. It's a node in a decentralized network. We call it Fediverse. You can host your own software. I help guys to develop it. I know the developers personally. Good dudes, very good dudes. Not all anarchists, but regardless of that, great people. So maybe you should donate to them. Ask them, like, hey guys, do you accept any donations? That also is, of course, appreciated. The guy that started that thing just is a hero, I think. Also, I have an XMPP server. XMPP is also a decentralized protocol thing. It's, maybe Jabber, ICQ. It's a thing. So you can register on Voluntaryism.club as well through any XMPP client you have, guys. I have registrations open, so please free to check it out. Maybe I'll set up some email. I don't know. But yeah, and maybe I'll even set up a blog with some things to, like, how to install this, how to do that. Some guides, some things, some explanations, some help. And of course, if you guys want to connect to Mumble, I'm eager to talk any day of the week. I love talking. So that's voluntaryism.club, the address. So you just download Mumble from mumble.info. Then you go to server, connect, add new, and then in the address, you type voluntaryism.club. That's all you need to do. And a username. Pick any username, connect, let's talk. So
Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to ask you to spam the links my way once we get done with this so I can put those in the show notes page.
But it's all the same link, voluntaryism.club.
Yeah, pretty much. Just the instructions and stuff. Don't you have an instruction page where you helped someone like me? You lost it?
Yes. Well, there was a reason for it, man. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's connected to drugs and the fascists,
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, man. I'm really glad that we got to know each other. So.
It's an honor. And by the way, guys, please donate to Patrick. Like, come on, man. $5 a month, nigga. Come on. Don't go to the fucking McDonald's for once, okay? Just give him $5 a month, man. Come on.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate anyone who would consider donating to me. It really goes to good use. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
well,
and
I'm on a podcast. Of course, it's a good use.
Hell yeah. And I was gonna say too, anyone out there, don't be afraid to reach out to me. That's part of the reason why I have a show. DT reached out to me. We're friends now, and I've learned a lot of great shit. So
yeah, same as me.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Well, thanks for being on, and we'll check everyone else later.
Yeah, see you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's an honor, dude.
In the early days of the internet, radical libertarians were scattered, lonely, and faceless. Without direction, they resigned to scour the web, sifting through content providers in a wasteland plagued by YouTube demonetization, Facebook jail, and covert internet censorship. But then, in 2017, the Libertarian Union was formed. Finally, the average Joe libertarian could find a thriving community of independent podcasters and content providers, all in one convenient location. At Libertarian Union, we'll always have the latest news, interviews, discussions, and even movie reviews. With hundreds of episodes and more added all the time, you'll always find something fresh at Libertarianunion.com.
Fuck yeah. I'm drunk as fuck now.
Are you?
Bottles.
Oh my god.
At the end, did you notice that when I was drinking really quietly, so it's like, I'm drunk now, dude. I'm 2 bottles in.
Oh shit. Well, let me